But now, kind enough to join us in studio, as he has so many times before, a gentleman who has won multiple, and I do mean multiple contests, handicapping contests here in Las Vegas. He won the Win Eliminator contest about a decade ago for $100,000, the Palms contest in 2011, Stations Casino's Last Man Standing college football contest in 2016, where he pulled down another $52K. And, you know, he's come close to winning others. Last year in Circa Millions, he had 2 entries. He was 20th and 31st. And this year, he did it again, finishing 2nd and 5th. It's Las Vegas Chris, everybody. How you doing, man?
Good morning.
So you're pretty good at this, huh?
I try. I've been very fortunate. Very fortunate. For some reason, I have a knack for it. So, and it's just a lot of fun. You
do have a knack for it. I want to get to the story first. Then I want to get to are you a good contest player and a good handicapper, or are you all about the contest? We'll get into all that. Your reaction to James Salinas winning back in the day is fascinating. We'll get your picks for Wild Card Weekend. But let's just start. Our friend Patrick Everson did a great piece on you and covers. Well, he did a great piece on all the contests, and you, of course, were included. Baker and Gregorich won Circa Millions. They finished with 56.5 points. Here it is on the screen at VSIN.com, the VSIN app. DSR 9157 is who won this contest. ODBMG 2, 56.5, pardon me, there they are. And then you, Deviate 1 and Deviate 2, one of your entries a tie for 2nd, the other a tie for 5th. Okay, so that 2nd place entry went 4-1 in week 17. Who'd you lose on?
Oh, Tennessee. Yeah, I would have won the whole thing. I had to take I played this to win it. There's a way to play these tournaments or these contests, and you can play it to win it, or you can play it to cash. And I played to win it. I didn't think about the money. I just wanted to win it. I'm disappointed I didn't win it. The money is just, it's just part of the process. But I had to choose games that I could gain. So, I normally wouldn't play a Baltimore per se. I didn't, I'm playing games that I didn't even bet. But I had to put myself in a position to advance. And here's the most ridiculous part of it, is I played it perfectly, and I picked the right games. I was on all different games except one of the guys in front of me, the guy that won it. So it was amazing. That was the only guy that I wasn't going to fare well against, because we accidentally matched 3 games, so I boiled down to 2 games. And one of the games was the Lions, which I loved the Lions. I didn't play the line move. If that had been +3 in the contest or +4, I would have played the Lions. So I did like that. So it was all down to Tennessee. And obviously in the third quarter, I was winning everything. And that's when I knew I'm not going to win this, because there's no way it stays the same.
Well, let's give context. So you went 4-1 in week 17. Your 5th place entry, the combination of the two of them, you won $200,000 a piece on both of those, correct? No, $200,000 total. He said a piece here in the piece. So $200,000 total on those.
No, the one that finished in 2nd split $400,000.
Okay.
The 300 and the 100 for 2nd and 3rd, and then the 5th split with 3 people. And that totaled $100,000.
Okay.
So that was 33.
Skill Alexander, Las Vegas Chris, right here on a numbers game at VSIN, the Sports Betting Network, on VSIN.com, the VSIN app, Fubo, Sling, and Game Plus. Okay, so your 2nd entry, again, finished just a half point out, tied for a half point out. Your 5th place entry finished up the season, the last 4 weeks, to tie for 5th, 5-0 in weeks 14, 16, and 17, 2-2-1 in week 15. So a 17-2-1 run that took that entry from outside the top 50 to a cashing spot as well. That was the 333 you were talking about. And that was also part of a 9-way second place tie for the 4th quarter prize money, which you had no idea about.
I had no clue. Yeah, not till afterward.
Didn't even know about it. Didn't even worry about it.
Didn't even think about it. I did realize in between, after it ended, I did realize, hey, wait a minute, I should take a look at the quarter just for the hell of it. They actually updated on the Circa app the standings. So I wasn't even going to click the fourth quarter standings, and I noticed, oh my God, if I win, so I had to go through. I was so idiotic, I didn't even realize they list everybody's games. So I'm manually trying to figure out what people, who had Washington still left, because I just assumed in the top 10 everybody had Washington. But for the second quarter, only one person, only a couple of people had Washington, so that was favorable. But I had to hedge.
You purposely were going to pick the Sunday night game no matter what?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I knew a lot of people would leave that game for last for hedging purposes, so I definitely didn't go out of my way to use that.
So the scheduling just worked out that way.
It just worked out. Washington was just too solid of a play. And it wasn't a line move play. If it.
And you had the benefit then of not only that favorable scheduling quirk, but a line that moved towards the team you were picking. And so then you got to do the hedging strategy that I talked about with Survivor players heading into Week 17, which is, hey, whatever you're picking, just take the opposite team plus the points, try to cash both. You did that as well.
Yeah, there was somebody in Survivor that was in the exact same position I was at the start of the day. And we were talking, and I said, listen, you've got to take the points. You can't just do it all on the money line. And he wanted to do it all on the money line. And I'm not sure what he ended up doing for sure, but I think he didn't take the points. And coincidentally, at the end of the day, I found myself having to take my own advice, which I was happy to do. And I found a flat 7, actually, to do it with. So it didn't cost me more than the 10 cents. And so dead nutted that the same way I did when I won Last Man Standing. A few years back, I had Minnesota plus 14.5 in the contest, and I hedged minus 13.5, and it landed 14. So
okay, so I botched the money before. So 200,000 on the entry that finished tied for second, 33,000 on the entry that tied for fifth, and an additional 11,000 plus on the hedge.
No, that the 11,000 was on the fourth quarter.
On the fourth quarter prize,
right?
The hedge was an additional 13K. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we end up with? 244 or something like that?
I think 250 something.
256, something like that. So $250,000 plus, putting it all together. I'm trying to read from the article, but the math is a little wrong here. So so a little over 250K. So that's a wonderful story about how you had two entries. I had the Booby Prize guy on yesterday. He talked about how he decided with his second one he was going to just go oppo. One was going to go for the title. One was going to go for the Booby Prize. Did you ever think about a Booby Prize with one of those?
Yeah, because I started at 1 and 4 on the one that finished in fifth. So I started off slow. I was down in the 2800s. And I thought about it, and I'm like, all right. And I believe I threw a bunch of junk in there just to see what was going to happen, and ended up doing okay. So I decided to go for the win instead. But the quarterlies aren't usually a goal of mine because I usually don't have that kind of variance of what I do. I mean, I'm never going to have a bad week. I'm never going to have that many great weeks. I'm always going to be just a little bit toward the positive.
So that would be, so here's Chris's tweet, thankful to play second and fifth in Circa Millions with my 2 tries. Now, fourth quarter second. Now, here's where the story, now that story would be enough because it's yet another feather in your cap of contest. You finish second and fifth, you have a hedge, you place in quarterly, it ends up being more than $250,000. However, what made your story even more interesting this year, and this is why I really wanted to have you on, is you are a veteran of contest, you are a veteran of betting, and it doesn't matter how veteran you are, we still make mistakes. Please explain. In Week 16, which was Christmas week, the week before, there was a Friday game, Saints-Vikings, I believe it was?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened Week 16?
I wasn't really prepared on what I was going to do for that week because I'm not looking to play before the deadline. I want to be as close to the deadline as possible. So I was hemming and hawing playing the Friday game, and the line was going the wrong way, and there was just something rubbing me the wrong way. So, but I did say, you know what, I've got to use that game on the one I'm trying to bring up. The one I'm trying to bring up that finished in 5th was so far back. I had to get away from what I would do on the main one, and so I'm like, I got to use that game, because that's, that I just have to. So I put that entry in, and then I realized, you know what? Wait a minute, I'm going to go ahead and just stick the main one in. Also, I really do like these Saints. I don't care if the market is liking the Vikings. I've got to trust what I'm doing. And so I load up, I choose the selections, I select the Saints, I've got my picks, and that process takes seconds to do. I mean, they're not going to allow me to select Saints if it's not available. And in the 10 seconds or 15 seconds that it took me to go through that process, it comes up with a red stripe across, and the entry was denied.
Here it is on the screen. Yeah. Entry denied. This game is closed. So, did you just miss the deadline? There was an earlier deadline?
Well, there was, as far as I know, there wasn't a strict deadline. I'm watching the game on TV. It's on pregame. I'm watching the announcers, and they're going to commercial. The game hasn't started, and I wasn't sure, when I could select it. So,
yeah.
But obviously they went at the 1:30 start time instead of the actual game start time.
Yeah.
I should have been better prepared.
And just to be clear, you're not pointing fingers at it. It just is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was the game the Saints won 52-33. Kamara had the 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So if you had gotten that entry in, you only finished a half point behind. You would have won the whole thing if you had picked everything the same.
Yeah.
After.
But the torture doesn't really revolve around that. It was the next day, and if you remember from the previous time, I pulled the same nonsense in week 9 or 8.
Where you did it at 3 p.m. exactly, right?
I asked Mike Palm, I go, do you have copies of the times? Do you have the time when it was submitted? Because I'd love to see that, because I'm positive that I missed it. I mean, I was trying as fast as I possibly could. I got the first one in, which was the lower ranked one, and then I got the second one in, and I looked down and it says 3:01 on my phone, and I know they only take it till 3 o'clock and 59 seconds, but I got lucky to get that one in. Then I've got the Saints week 1 that didn't work right, and then the next day you'd think I'd learned my lesson. Same situation. I'm down in the garage. I'm looking at the line movements. I'm looking at some other data.
So we're back to week 16 now.
Yep, it's the day after the Saints. And I didn't intend on using that San Francisco-Arizona game. It was on the sheet at a 5. It goes up to a strong 6.5. I start to see some buyback, and I start to – and it just dawns on me. I go, you know what? I'm positive this San Francisco is going to win. I'm going to put that in, and – so I ran upstairs. I just wanted to check my data, some data point that I wanted to double check, and so I'm putting it in, and then I get a telegram from a buddy that says the running back for Jacksonville is going to be out, and so I got to verify that quickly just to make sure, because you know how that
Yes.
the rumor mill goes.
Yes.
So I'm panicking, and I'm doing all this stuff quickly, and I decide to take the Jacksonville off, and in my rush, because I'm a bettor, I'm looking at Arizona -5, knowing that that's value. I punched in Arizona by mistake instead of San Francisco. So, and I realized it right away, and I said to myself, I got sick to my stomach, because the Saints was disheartening, but I could live with that. I knew 100% certainty San Francisco was going to cover. I don't know how to express it, but I knew. And there was no way, and I actually opened up all of my accounts. I'm going to do in-game, because this is going to cost me so much money. I just feel that this is going to be the difference. And I couldn't even in-game, because I was just going to keep pounding, and I didn't even have that opportunity.
Oh, I think everybody felt that. But the reason, and I really appreciate you coming and telling a story, because this is very relatable to people. For anybody who is in a contest, for anybody who is in Survivor, any type of contest that is done by app, there is that moment, especially when you're deep into one, where you're like, wow, what I'm about to do is really going to determine a lot of stuff. And you get the James Robinson news. That was the back with the Jaguars,
Yep.
I would assume. And you have to go verify just in those moments in your haste. You press the wrong team, and that ends up being the difference between $1 million or what you ended up with. So, begging the question, like, what's the percentage of I'm thrilled to have won more than $250,000 versus the regret of the other side of that?
Again, it was never about the money. It was about this is going to cost me the victory. That's all I could think.
Just the win.
And it was really difficult because I knew it, and emotionally I cracked. I literally cracked, and I had to go through a mental gymnastics to reconcile the stupidity and the self-hatred for being so careless the second day in a row, for God's sake. So
what does cracked look like? Like, how long does that last? Like, what happened to you? Did you just, like, were you catatonic? Were you not talking?
I was just devastated. I'm like, how could you be this stupid? You're supposed to be a pro. You're not supposed to do this stupid stuff. And I went full circle. I'm like, God, I hope nobody finds out about this. And then nobody would believe it anyway. And it's like, I'll be a laughing stock. And
I'm supposed to be so
But
sharp.
I can't keep this in.
Yes.
I'm like, I have to tell somebody how stupid I am. I have to tell somebody. How am I going to come out looking okay on this? And just all the hard work and the simple mistakes and having to change my thought process and push the restart button, because you can't have a pity party. You have to move on. And that just comes from years of experience and changing the way you're going to process bad news or bad results to get yourself out of slumps or to get yourself out of the mental issues that are going to cause you problems.
Didn't you fail to put in a last man standing entry this year too? Did that happen? Or am I making that up?
There was a snafu on that, but that was the wife's fault.
That was the wife's. Well,
she didn't put in the right entries, or she didn't get there in time. She thought she could stand in that long stations line. If she got in line at 9:35, she thought that she could get in there through the line in 20 minutes.
I'm sure that was a fun conversation.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So then, Chris, I mean, are you just a great contest player, or are you also a bang up handicapper? I'm sure you are so where does the contest skills make you superpowered and you're already a great handicapper, I guess?
I think I'm very good in the NFL. So, going back 4 years, over 350 games, I've moved up to over 61% now. So, you're supposed to be going down with that kind of volume of games. So, this year, over 115 plays or 120 plays, 65%. So,
good Lord, man.
The handicapping is going well. But I think with the contest, and I did make the comment to somebody else before the final week, and I said, I'm the only one in that group of people on the top that isn't thinking about the money, and that's my advantage.
That's your advantage.
So, and I was never thinking about the money. So I think your perspective at how you look at the games and what games you're going to choose is different. So,
well, let's put it this way, though. If you consider yourself a really, really great handicapper, but it's your elite contest skills that put you over the top, and that what you just articulated there, that's your ultimate advantage, that you don't care about the money.
I think that helps a lot, but it also the contest strategy of, hey, I'm not one of these guys that is chasing line moves. I mean, what good is that going to get you? If anything, I'm looking to avoid the games everybody else is on. So, and that's difficult to do because it's hard to find value in those other games.
So if you're getting in these contests, this is who you're competing against. He shrugs it off, but he's being modest about it. When we come back, and thanks for sticking around, I want to get your thoughts on when James Salinas used to come on this network, when he used to come on my show. He won the Super Contest. He finished third the next year, finished 26th a couple years after that. Great contest player. What you used to think about him and how that's changed now that you've gone through this year, coming back. And we'll get his wild card picks on a numbers game at VSIN, these sports. Las Vegas Chris with us for most of this hour. Again, he's won multiple contests in Vegas, the Win Eliminator contest, Palms contest, Stations Casino, Last Man Standing college football. Last year, 20th and 31st with his 2 entries in Circa. This year, 2nd and 5th. And again, the way the money shook out, $200,000 for number 2, the one that finished at a tie for 2nd, $33,000 for the one that finished at a tie for 5th, an additional $11K for the quarterly high finish, and then an additional $12K from the hedge bet, just over, when you put it all together, $250,000. But it wasn't without its bumps getting there, as we just documented. So, you know, James Salinas, who co-hosts along with Mike Pritchard, Betting Across America here on VSIN, James used to come on before his Visa days when he was winning these contests. Won the Super Contest in 2017. Won it all, north of $900,000. Next year, he had the audacity to finish 3rd. A couple years after that, he finished 26th. He used to come on my show, and he would go through his process of how he did this. Tell us what your reaction was then and how you feel now.
Well, it was funny because I heard him on the radio this past weekend, and it dawned on me that I remember listening to him being interviewed by you. I don't remember how long ago, you know, might have been 2 years ago or whatever, but I remember listening to him explain in detail all, you know, his process of checking the weather and the injuries and the this and the that. And I remember at the time thinking, geez, the guy's got to get a life. And I was actually by myself. And I laughed out loud to myself thinking, what did I have to do all year? I mean, I literally had no life this year. I was worse than what he explained he was doing back then, who I was mentally ridiculing in my head when I heard him interview. And now I'm worse than he is because you literally have to stay on this all day, every day. There's always, especially with the COVID stuff.
Well, I was going to ask you, so how terrified were you of some COVID shenanigan torpedoing your whole thing?
Well, fortunately, with the millions, if you get tied into a game, at least you're going to get a half a point if it's going to get moved. But I feel bad for the people in Survivor. I guess one guy got knocked out with the Pittsburgh, right? But
right. Well, the Pittsburgh people also had saved Pittsburgh for Thanksgiving, and that game got scuttled. Yeah.
Well, and then you had the week with the Saints Denver, where it would have been okay to use in millions, but I would have never risked it in Survivor based on the news that I had.
I did, baby.
I know.
I was all in it.
But trying to keep up with this stuff it's torture because there's always these rumors, unconfirmed rumors. Yeah. You don't know how that's going to affect.
What happens to you now after football season? Do you go away until next football season?
No, I'm staying pretty busy. What else am I going to do with my time? Normally, I would go off to Thailand and hang out there for a couple of months and decompress. And I can't go there.
But that's your typical year is football season, and then you just sort of chill between football seasons?
I take about a 80 to 100 day sabbatical and usually go to Thailand.
Beautiful.
And I didn't get a chance to do it last year.
But I guess what I'm getting at is you're not handicapping basketball or baseball.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at it all because what am I going to do with my time? I mean, I don't mean to. I don't want to be running around in public right now. The environments are not conducive to enjoyment. I might as well be home anyway. And I'm kind of on a roll. I've been doing really well with the other sports. So as long as it's profitable, I'll keep on branching out and trying to.
Does your thirst in any way wane to play these contests? Do you think there'll ever be a time where you're like, I've done enough, I'm done playing contests? Or does it make you want to play more contests, or do you just want to stick to the ones you play?
I would play in as many contests as there are. I mean, it's pretty clear that this type of stuff is going to blow up around the country. I mean, you, as far as I'm concerned, how can you not be running some sort of a contest?
How many did you play in this year beyond Circa Million?
I only played the $25 last man standing one. I wasn't going to play the super contest if they're going to take 6 or 8% or whatever it is.
I'm with you there, brother. We'll come back. Chris's wild card weekend picks, what he's already bet on a numbers game at VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. It's Gil Alexander with Las Vegas Chris. Chris Zanuck, who finished second and fifth in Circa Millions this year. You were saying it's much easier for you to listen to VSIN now than it was before.
Oh yeah, this iHeart radio app is really cool, and I didn't even realize that I didn't even have to do anything. My car connected it automatically. Apparently, there's an app already. There's a way where it just automatically goes on to my entertainment system in my car, so I didn't even have to do anything, and it just turns on every time I get in the car, which is nice.
Beautiful. There you go. If it's good enough for Chris and easy enough for Chris, it's easy for you.
That's true.
Great to hear.
Great to hear. Before we get to your what you've bet already at Wild Card Weekend, you're not without your superstitions. I don't know if it's superstition. You just have a policy with your contest picks. You didn't want your name revealed. You never tell your picks. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in the years past, last year I used the Las Vegas Chris name, and I didn't have a problem with it. And then at the end of the year, when I was kind of getting up top, I'm like, well, maybe that wasn't a good idea because I'm out there. I'm out there with picks occasionally. So
there's no advantage to it.
There's certainly no advantage, and it can only be a disadvantage. So, I really wanted to keep it just as a source of pride. I used to think it was kind of being a weasel, that people are trying to protect themselves when they do crappy. But it was to... I honestly, deep down, not being cocky, I really felt I was going to be in contention. I really felt that I was going to be up there. So
why wouldn't you, based on your track record?
Well, yeah, and it's so it would be silly for me to have my name out there and have people be able to siphon picks in various ways. So
DV8, by the way, DV8 used to be the name of a club in San Francisco when I was a kid. Not a kid, but like a 20-something.
That's the name of a club in Phnom Penh, Cambodia.
Really?
So that's how I came up with it. I just love the name because people don't realize you're saying deviate.
Deviate, right. All the people in the Bay who are of a certain generation are like, oh, my God, deviate. And so what was the deal? You didn't want to tell anybody your picks, and then our friend Roxy wanted to know your picks. What happened?
It's kind of funny because everybody wanted to know who I was in the contest, and I wouldn't tell anybody in the industry who I was, just because I didn't want it to leak, and it was just kind of superstitious. Let me do this on my own, that sort of thing. And Roxy and I communicate on a regular basis. We spent some time in Thailand together, and he's a great guy. When the legend of the industry says, "Hey, you gotta, you got to give me a bone here. Well, give me something to root for. What am I supposed to do? Say no?" It's like, no.
Yeah.
So the 1 week I allowed anybody in the industry to know what I was picking. I shared the picks, and that was the only week I went 2 and 3. So every other week was better. And
so you told Roxy no more?
I said, no more. Sorry. I don't care.
Despite, by the way, we were talking about Roxy Roxborough, the legendary founder of Las Vegas Sports Consultants and a legend here in Vegas. Even with him, 2 and 3, you're like, you're out, Roxy.
Yeah, sorry.
No more.
So he said his jinx status is still active.
It's still active. Jinx active. Okay, wild card weekend. What have you bet? What have you already put in your account?
It's funny because people asked me whether I bet anything right away, and I responded to a handful of people, and I said, you know what, I got a funny feeling this COVID thing is not done. I kind of want to see what's going on with it. It just seems to be amped up just a little bit more, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, but I did bet the Steelers right off the bat. I tried to wait as long as I could, and I took the Steelers minus the 3.5.
That ended up being a fortuitous wager with the Stefanski news. That's like 6 across the board now.
Yeah, but that was pretty solid.
I liked it anyway.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh should be able to handle them. You've got the first-time quarterback in the playoffs trend that's not good, and you've got to go with the experience, and the metrics are clearly. All Pittsburgh. I mean, for gosh sakes, Cleveland was outscored. How can you be outscored? They finished 10-3 Did they finish 11?
11-5.
They finished 11-5, and they were outscored. Even the Atlanta Falcons outscored their opponents, I believe. Or at least
Aaron Schatz, who's the creator of Football Outsiders, is going to join me next hour. I believe he has them, if not the worst 11-5 team in his ratings of all time, one of the worst.
I got a lot of flack from people throughout the season because I kept calling the Browns a fraud, and they had a lot of these glamour stats earlier in the season, but when you went to all the other data, they were just atrocious. And they did pull it together. And I had a bunch of people on Twitter, I thought you said the Cleveland Browns suck. and I said, well, they do. They have the second worst against the spread record. Well, that's all I care about. So the value was against the spread. So I got these people ing me, and I'm making money betting against them every week.
Do people still say na? Is that something?
Well, it's,
I've heard that. I see.
But I they did get better throughout the season.
Yes.
But
anything besides Pittsburgh?
Let's see. I did the Rams yesterday. The metrics came in, pretty close to like 1.
Do you care who plays quarterback or not at all?
The way Goff reminds me of Jay Cutler. I mean, they could go as when you see their faces, they could go as each other on Halloween, can't they?
True. It's the worst.
It just you putting money on that guy's tough.
But he killed Survivor for me, Chris.
I think the Rams demonstrated last week that they're a solid team. They have been the most solid team all around in the league.
Well, they got the best defense out there.
One of them.
One of them for sure.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh and the Rams, both of those games. Well, the Rams middle game on Saturday, Pittsburgh the final game on Sunday. Anything else?
I had to do the Saints. It's a huge filter for me. I usually do not play teams that are laying more than 7 points. It's just I don't want to be involved in them, even though those are winners. I mean, big spread teams have been winners over the last handful of years.
This is a very COVID-dependent game. Like, if they get their guys back, they could roll them. If they don't,
Well, and the Saints have a horrible against the spread record at home in these playoff-type games. But my metrics had this at 17, so I had no choice.
Is there any more, or that's it? If there's another one, hold it for after the break. All right, we'll come back. One more pick. So Pittsburgh, but that number's gone.
I wouldn't play it.
I wouldn't play that anymore, right? You would not.
No.
Okay, but you do like New Orleans, and you do like the Rams. Any other one here before we let you go?
I just remembered. I don't remember the show. But it's a show where they guess lines and what they're going to come out.
Yes.
And one of these guys actually said Tennessee should be favored.
Yeah.
And I found that to be pretty incredulous. So
were you like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Wait, but did you think? Okay, and I said also, I was like, I'm willing to admit I was off on.
Chris handled that really well too.
He was very kind.
He said, "Well, I got him at like 4.5."
Yeah. But you, so I'm wrong for sure. But do you think they should have been getting 4.5? I don't.
The optics of what kind of betting you're going to get, obviously not. They opened that a little high, but
they did. They, I mean, Drew Dinsick and I talked about this the other day. I know you love Drew as well.
Yeah.
Whale Capper. We talked about it as we think that had something to do with the futures market. That there was a little bit of a, hey, we need some Tennessee money if there's a lot of Baltimore future stuff. Maybe not.
Why wouldn't they do that on the money lines then?
Yeah, maybe. No, you're right.
So, but do
you like Tennessee? Do you like?
Oh no, I like Baltimore.
You're laying the points.
Yeah, I'm going to lay the points. It's going to keep coming down, I think. I think Tennessee gets enough support, and it should be a wild and crazy game. It should be back and forth.
I love that you were mocking my guess on that one. It's one of my worst guesses of all time. But it was of the 6 games, that was the one I couldn't believe.
No, your worst guess was when you had that Pittsburgh line.
But you were with me on that.
I was with you on that. I had the exact same line. That's what was funny about it.
That's so funny. So, that was the Miami-Pittsburgh Monday night game last year where I was a full 7 points off the line.
Right.
And we were all like, you were listening and you were like, oh my God, I had the exact same line.
I had the same line.
That was the weirdest thing I have ever, in 10 years of doing that show.
But there have been a handful of games this year that have been so far off. You're like, what don't I know?
Right.
It just like every now and then they put a line out there that makes no sense.
And this year, would you agree that most of them, even after you did the digging, you still didn't understand why the line was what it was? Yeah.
I mean, I think there was, I wish I could remember the game this year.
There was a lot. There was Buffalo-Denver on a Saturday where the money came in on Denver. I'm like, what are people doing? Like, there's a lot of those games this year. It's very odd.
Yeah.
Chris, I can't thank you enough. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Over $250,000, tie for second, tie for fifth in Circa Millions after a great finish last year as well. You're amazing, man, and I appreciate how generous you are with your time. And thank you for the humility of telling that story, how you just made errors that any mere mortal would make.
Well, you have to equate it. I mean, every single athlete, I mean, how many times are we going to see the 4 fingers up for Tom Brady? I mean, that meme we're never going to see the end of it. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think what improves my betting is to be humble and learn from the mistakes, knowing I'm going to make more mistakes. And anytime you think you had the best of it and you're better than anybody else, that's when you're going to come crashing down. And I just like to, everybody's the same. Nobody's, any different.
Appreciate those of us who talk to you in the back channels, too. We all appreciate it, man. We love talking to you because no better advice than from you on all kinds of things, hedging, etc. Thank you. Las Vegas Chris, everybody. Chris Zanuck on a numbers game at VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.